Greetings and salutations, horror movie fans. My name is Gilbert Ybarra, and welcome back to the Addict Review. On today's episode of Tar, I want to talk about the movie that scarred me for life since the age of 5 and gave me a lifelong irrational fear of dolls, all because of a good guy named Chucky in Child's Play. Yes, I watched this movie way too early in life, and it shows. And Chucky is not large in stature, he's a goddamn doll. But his presence in horror is huge and has been felt for about 35 years now. I know I'm not the only chicken butt still scared of Chucky out here, so I'll be the voice to tell all the non-believers why this movie is still petrifying. In traditional Addict Review fashion, I'm going to break the movie down into the 3 acts as I saw them play out, what scared the piss out of me about each act, and how I felt about the movie overall. So without further ado, let's talk about the stuff that my nightmares are made out of. This goddamn movie, Child's Play. We got a nice little shoot-'em-up showdown to start the film. Detective Mike Norris is hot on the trail of the Lakeshore Strangler. Well, we know him better as Charles Lee Ray. And Charles here, well, he just got abandoned by his partner in crime, Eddie Caputo, and gets his ass capped. Dying from the caps in his ass, Charles here pulls off a miracle with some voodoo and transfers his soul into the body of a much-wanted children's toy known as Good Guys. And he vows to get revenge no matter what. Sorry about that, I had to try. And guess who is adorable, has a birthday coming up, and really wants a Good Guy doll? Sweet, innocent 6-year-old Andy's who wants it, and since being a single mom is tough, his loving mama Karen finds a killer deal from a shady dude selling the doll in an alley. What could go wrong? Well, I'll tell you what can go wrong. Karen's best friend Maggie is a saint for babysitting Andy for a bit on his birthday. But for being a good person, Maggie gets a mini hammer to her face and then falls out a window to her death. Karen is in grief and shock when she arrives home and finds Detective Norris from earlier investigating this potential homicide scene. And he has Andy as prime suspect number 1. Andy's not helping his case either after rambling on and on about how his new doll did it. So now the detective and Karen have their suspicions about Andy and the doll, but mostly Andy. And Karen's concerns grow even worse after Andy claims that his doll has a name, and his name is Chucky. What a way to end Act 1. Before we get to what scared me about Act 1, do me a huge favor, show the channel some love by clicking like and subscribe. I would really appreciate the support. Alright, thank you so much. On with the show. Act 1 started fast, and I'm telling you, these first 30 minutes or so fly. I like how immediately Brad Dourif made his presence fiercely known as the terrifying Charles Lee Ray, aka Chucky. I also like the immediate attachment and protectiveness we feel over young Andy and Mama Karen. This is going to be a rough ride for all of us. The sneakiness of the unknown killer is fun, especially when we get a POV of the tiny assailant and how eerie it is to watch him on the hunt. Some of my favorite parts include the opening, like I said, fast-paced, and then hearing that menacing voice of Brad Dourif growling for revenge and spouting off that god-awful spell. Very nice. By the way, you will never hear me reciting that spell for 2 reasons. A, I'm paranoid it might actually work, and 2, I can't pronounce it no matter how hard I try, so I think I'm safe. And then the whole apartment babysitting sequence is unbelievably suspenseful. This is one of those parts where you lift your feet off the floor and onto the couch and grab that safety blankie for protection. No dislikes, but one more random like. Chris Sarandon, man, loved him in The Princess Bride and Fright Night, so I'm rooting for him a little bit more here. Now, on to more scaring the hell out of me in Act 2. Act 2 starts with Andy and Chucky playing a little hooky from school as Chucky has a promise of revenge to keep and finds his rap partner Eddie Caputo and kaboom! Turns him into Daddy Caputo. Check that one off the list. Uh-oh. This puts Andy at 2 murder scenes now and as a result puts him into psychiatric care. And Karen's gonna need some of that for what happens to her next. After taking out her frustrations on the silent doll, she discovers that this motherfucker hasn't had batteries this whole time, and then he violently, verbally, and physically attacks Karen in a super scary scene. After all that squabbling, Chucky escapes. So good news and bad news for Karen. Good news is that Andy was telling the truth. Bad news is that Andy was telling the truth. Karen avoids an awful situation with the peddler that had sold her the doll, thanks to Detective Norris. And together they made the connection that Charles Lee Ray is in fact Chucky inside the doll. Well, Karen made that connection. Norris becomes convinced after nearly getting shanked and choked while driving. Norris not only survives, he puts another cap in Chucky's ass, which sends him scurrying away in pain. Now Chucky finally gets some good news as he's murdering his former mentor of the dark arts, who is also the only man that can help Detective Norris and Karen, of course. Chuck learns that to escape this doll body that is starting to become human, all he has to do is transfer his soul into Andy because of all the voodoo technicalities and stuff like that. Before the voodoo master dies, however, he tells Norris and Karen that in order to stop Chucky and save Andy, they have to stop Chucky's heart. And on that note, we end Act 2. Act 2, damn it got scary as Chucky became more of a menace as he is crossing off his Kill Bill style list. The tension is thick because logic and reason is being tested now. How can a doll possibly come to life and murder and scar people for life? Unbelievable fear is starting to rise as Chucky's attacks on his enemies are just getting creepier because of the element of surprise that little fucker has. Some of my favorite scenes include the absolute fear when the doll is discovered without batteries and Chucky eerily reveals himself to Karen. God damn it, that part gets me every time, especially that roll under the couch. I hate it, but the car scene with Detective Norris being strangled and almost becoming a human kebab is what makes this film respectively scary. I mean, you've got to give it some credit for that. And lastly, the voodoo teacher being served up a fatal lesson from his homicidal student was fun in a hostile sort of way. No dislikes except for all the nightmares I'm going to have later, but on to Act 3 and the finale of Child's Play. Act 3 has Andy trapped at the psych ward for kids with Chucky trying to get Adam to switch bodies out. And while Chucky is busy killing the doctor, Andy breaks out and heads home for safety. Oh yeah, Karen and Detective Norris also beeline straight to the home to save Andy's soul. The cat gets the mouse after a spooky chase through the apartment, and Charlie Boy here is this close to completing the ritual when Karen and Detective Norris show up to spoil the fun and save Andy. But shit, Chucky's hiding again in the apartment. He's the worst. After beating the shit out of Norris and putting hands on Karen again, Chucky gets tossed in the fireplace and someone get this guy a cigarette because Andy's about to light his ass up. That's not going to stop the surviving Chucky from wanting out of his charbroiled body though, as he chases them around the apartment again until more caps are delivered to his ass to put him down. Yes! But did you think this was over? Chucky makes Detective Norris a skeptical cop partner a believer after almost being killed by the burnt cycle doll. Then they get it together and finally put one in Chucky's heart to end his reign of terror. Well, at least for this movie. And we end Act 3 and Child's Play. Act 3 likes, well, I can't help but admire the breakneck tempo of this act. It does not let you breathe for a second. From escaping the child psych ward to being trapped and chased in the apartment to being captured, escaped, and chased again a few times, poor Andy's gonna be messed up for life. The last 15 minutes of this movie is intense as hell, especially the low angle shots providing that POV of Chucky as he's running around being a menace. Also, huge Act 3 like is the efforts to make the Chucky doll mobile, agile, hostile. Awesome work, FX team. Some of my favorite scenes from Act 3 include poor Andy being locked at the psych ward with Charles Lee Ray in pursuit. This scene has literally been in my nightmares. Another like is the voodoo spell that Chucky is reciting. The storm and the haunting words that he is chanting is some wild shit. Everything in the apartment chase was great. From Chucky being trapped and lit up, to them being charred up and chasing people around, and even giving Karen a little shining moment, to Detective Norris's partner being attacked through the vents, all good stuff in Act 3. And let's not forget, the haunting closing scenes between Chucky and Andy. What a great way to end the movie. So, how did I feel about this film overall? Regardless of the haters spouting up, oh, it's just a doll, Chucky is a terrorizing horror icon, especially for those with a hyperactive imagination and exposed to this movie way too young. Like me. Come on though, Brad Dourif's voice is blood-chilling, and Chucky is a relentless killer. He didn't turn funny and goofy till around the third movie. And then, yeah, his legacy, it kind of spiraled. In this one, he is vicious, and his surprise attacks are truly frightening because his targets aren't just adults. Instead, it's a sweet, innocent kid that he wants to swap places with. Like, I don't understand how this prospect isn't terrifying to anybody else. Damn my imagination. However, the OG Child's Play is truly a horror classic, especially if you let your imagination go wild. It is a horrifying but fun slash movie that honestly still petrifies me to this day. Like, you will never see a Chucky doll in my collection or house. However, it is so much fun to watch for a good scare. And that's it for today's episode of Tar and the movie that ruins my dreams to this day. Child's Play is a legendary horror film that I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Maybe with less trauma. It has been an absolute pleasure. Please like, subscribe, comment, tell some friends about the channel. My name is Gilbert, your bar, and thank you so much for watching the Attic Review. Smile, Tiger.